Right now, the world is watching one of the most dangerous geopolitical standoffs of our time. The United States and Iran are in tense face off, and millions are asking, is war coming? In the past few days, the US government has signaled it's preparing for the worst day by getting a second aircraft carrier strike group ready to move into the Middle East, joining another carrier already near Iran's border. A rare show of military muscle meant to send a clear message to Tehran that Washington is serious about its demands. At the same time, Iran is talking about limited diplomatic engagement with the US, agreeing to meet in Oman this week for talks focused on its nuclear program, aiming to find a peaceful path forward and avoid open conflict. But there's a flip side. US leaders, including President Trump, have publicly warned Iran of very tough consequences if Tehran does not change its policies, especially on nuclear development and ballistic missiles, and have not ruled out military actions if negotiations fail. Iran's leadership, including its supreme leader, has made it equally clear that any attack on Iran could trigger a broader regional war, a threat that raises alarms not just in Tehran and Washington, but across the whole Middle East, especially Israel. So, right now, we have two very different paths unfolding at the same time. On the one side, nations are moving warships, warplanes, and powerful military assets into place as if preparing for a possible confrontation. On the other side, diplomats are stepping in, trying to keep talks alive and push both sides toward negotiation in a state of violence. It's like watching two stories run side by side, one ending in peace and the other in chaos, and the world does not yet know which will win out. What's clear is this moment matters not just to the US and Iran, but to global markets, regional stability, and millions of lives across the Middle East and beyond. But here's the real question. Why do the United States and Iran keep reaching this breaking point again and again? What is it about this relationship that turns tension into crisis every few years? And more importantly, if war does happen, would it start with a decision in Washington or with the single spark that no one can control? This is Denzel speaking, and welcome to the World of Intrigue. If you're looking for the truth, subscribe in the channel and hit the like button. Imagine two men standing in the same room. Both are armed, both are suspicious, both believe the other side is planning something dangerous. That's the United States and Iran. For years, they have been watching each other, not as partners, but as rivals. In Washington, officials sat in secure rooms studying maps of the Middle East. They see Iran's influence stretching across Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen. They see militias backed by Tehran. They see missiles being tested, and they ask one question: what happens if Iran decides to go further? To American leaders, Iran is not just another country. It's a power that could threaten the US allies, US troops, and the balance of power in the region. Now, switch the scene. In Tehran, leaders gather in their own war rooms. On their screens, they see something very difficult. They see American military bases surrounding them in the Gulf, in Iraq, and Syria. They see aircraft carriers in nearby waters. They see years of economic sanctions hurting their economy, and they ask their own question: what happens if America tries to weaken us completely? To Iran's leader, building missiles and strengthening allies is not aggression, it's protection, it's survival. And this is where the real problem begins. When America says stop your missile program, Iran hears we want you defenseless. When Iran says we will never give up our military strength, America hears we're preparing to challenge you. Both sides believe they are acting defensively. Both sides believe the other one is the threat. Over the years, this has created a dangerous pattern. A drone is shot down, a base is attacked, sanctions increase, military forces move closer, speeches become harsher, and every time the world holds its breath. Right now, the same pattern is happening again, but on a larger scale. Warships are moving, warnings are being issued, Diplomats are trying to talk, but underneath all of it, the same fear remains on both sides. If we show weakness, we lose. And when two powerful nations are afraid to look weak, that's when the risk of miscalculations becomes real. Because sometimes wars do not begin with a grand decision, sometimes they begin with one mistake, one overreaction, one moment when nobody steps back in time. So, at the time that everyone in the whole world is talking about the predicted war between America and Iran, and everyone knows that Israel could be in the middle of this war, just something unexpected happened. The leaders of these two powerful nations began to talk instead of fight. In early February, envoys from the United States and Iran met far from the headlines in the quiet city of Muscat, Oman. Not on a battlefield, but in a room full of tables and notes. Iran's top diplomat said they were entering talks in good faith, insisting that commitments must be honored if real progress is to be made. A signal that Iran was not there just for talks on paper, but to try to build trust. But here's the twist: neither side wants to go to war yet, and both have quietly set conditions that could keep a full scale conflict from erupting. The US wants Iran to limit its nuclear ambitions and provide clarity that it's not building a bomb, to reassure the world and reduce the sense of threat. Meanwhile, Iran has shown a willingness to allow verification of its nuclear facilities, a big step toward proving its program is peaceful rather than explosive. At the same time, regional voices are pushing for calm. For example, leaders in Turkey have publicly said they do not see an amendment to US-Iran war and believe diplomacy can still steer both sides away from conflict, a sign that outside pressure is building for a peaceful solution, not a violent one. Yet, not everything is smooth. Iran insists that its ballistic missiles are off limits in negotiations, making one of the biggest sticking points harder to bridge. So here's the real moment of suspense. Neither side wants a war, but both want terms that the other might see as too high. If they find a way to meet in the middle, stop nuclear expansion, allow deeper inspections, and avoid aggressive military moves, the whole world might just breathe in. If they fail, the storm clouds could finally break. So let's say diplomacy fails. What could happen? Actually, just to answer this question, we need to know that it would likely begin in the air. US forces could target Iranian military sites, radar systems, missile bases, naval facilities. The goal would be clear: weaken Iran's ability to respond quickly. Within hours, the region's skies would be filled with aircraft, drones, and defensive systems on high alert. But Iran would not stay silent. Tehran has already warned that any direct attack would bring retaliation that could mean missile strike in US bases in the Gulf area or attacks through allied groups across the whole region. Suddenly, countries like Iraq, Israel, and Gulf states could find themselves pulled into the conflict. Oil markets would shake, shipping routes in the Strait of Hormuz could be threatened, global prices could surge overnight, and here's the frightening truth. When those first 72 hours pass, controlling the escalation becomes much harder, because in modern war, it's not just about who strikes first, it's about who can stop it before it spreads. So here we are, two powerful nations, decades of distrust, warships in motion, diplomats at the table, and the whole world is watching every headline. The truth is, a full-scale war between the United States and Iran would not look like wars of the past. It would not stay contained. It wouldn't be simple. It would stretch across borders, shake global markets, and pull in allies and rivals alike. Oil prices would surge. Regional militias could activate. Cyber attacks could target infrastructure, and ordinary people, not politicians, would pay the highest price. But here's another truth that matters just as much. Neither side truly wants uncontrollable war. The United States wants security for its allies and limits on Iran's nuclear program. Iran's wants sovereignty, security, and relief from economic pressure. Between those goals lies a narrow path: diplomacy. Right now, the future depends on decisions made in quiet rooms, far from cameras. It depends on whether leaders choose compromise over pride, communication over confrontation, strategy over emotion. History shows us something important. Wars between major powers really start because both sides want destruction. They start because both sides believe they have no other choice. The real question today is not whether the US and Iran can fight, it's whether they can step back in time or not. And now I want to hear from you. Do you think this crisis will end in diplomacy, or are we just one incident away from a major war? If negotiations fail, what do you think would be pulled in first? Israel, Gulf states, or others? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown clear and helpful, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more deep analysis on global conflicts and the stories shaping our whole world. Because in times like this, understanding what's happening isn't just interesting, it's necessary. I'll see you in next episode.